Have you ever looked at your life and thought, why doesn't it feel the same anymore? Nothing terrible happened. Your life didn't suddenly fall apart. You still wake up, go through your day, talk to people, scroll through your phone, maybe even laugh sometimes. But deep down, something feels different. Like a song you've heard 1,000 times that suddenly doesn't hit the same. Like a place that once felt magical, but now just feels normal. And the strange part? You can't even explain exactly what changed. You just know that something did. A few years ago, little things felt bigger. A weekend felt exciting. A new movie felt like an event. A text from someone special could change your entire mood. Even random moments seemed to have more color. Now, days blur together, weeks disappear. And sometimes you reach Friday feeling like Monday happened 5 minutes ago. Why? What happened? Did life actually change? Or did we? Here's something weird. When you're a kid, life feels huge. A 1-hour car ride feels endless. Summer vacation feels like an entire lifetime. 1 year feels massive. But as you get older, time starts moving faster. Not because the clock changed, because your brain changed. Think about it. The first time you rode a bike, your brain paid attention to everything. The balance, the fear, the excitement, the possibility of crashing into a tree. Everything was new. Everything mattered. But after doing the same thing hundreds of times, your brain stops recording every detail. It switches to autopilot. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because most adults aren't exhausted from doing too much. They're exhausted from doing the same things over and over. Wake up, check notifications, go to work, come home, watch something, sleep, repeat, repeat, repeat. At first, routines make life easier. Then, one day, they quietly start stealing your sense of aliveness. Not because routines are bad, but because your brain loves novelty. It loves surprises. It loves things it hasn't seen before. Without them, days begin blending together like identical copies, and suddenly 6 months disappear. Here's another thing nobody talks about. Sometimes, life doesn't feel the same because you're comparing it to a version that never really existed. Think about your favorite memories. Maybe a school trip, a childhood friendship, a family gathering, a summer evening that still lives in your head. When you remember those moments, your brain edits them. It removes the boring parts, the awkward parts, the stressful parts. What's left is the highlight reel, the best scenes, the golden moments. Then you compare today's ordinary reality to yesterday's edited memories. Of course today loses. It never had a fair chance. But that's not the whole story, because there is another reason life feels different now. And honestly, this one hurts a little. When we're younger, we're constantly moving towards something. We can't wait to become teenagers, then adults, then get freedom, then get a job, then make money, then achieve our goals. There's always a next chapter waiting for us, a future version of ourselves calling us forward. But eventually, many people arrive at the things they spent years chasing, and they discover something shocking. The destination doesn't magically transform them. The job becomes normal. The phone becomes old. The achievement becomes yesterday's news. The thing they thought would change everything becomes just another part of life. And suddenly, they're left wondering, now what? It's not failure. It's actually something stranger. It's adaptation. Humans are incredibly good at getting used to things, even amazing things. That's why the excitement of buying something new rarely lasts. That's why dream situations eventually feel ordinary. That's why happiness cannot survive on novelty alone. But wait, if that's true, then are we just doomed to feel less excited forever? Not exactly. Because the people who seem most alive aren't the people with perfect lives. They're the people who stay curious. Think about that. Curiosity is one of the most underrated emotions in the world. A curious person can turn an ordinary walk into an adventure. A curious person can learn something new from a conversation. A curious person notices details everyone else ignores. Most people think happiness comes from having more, but often it comes from noticing more. There's a huge difference. One requires the world to change. The other requires your attention to change. And attention is powerful. Right now, millions of people are searching for some massive life-changing moment, some breakthrough, some secret, some magical answer.
Meanwhile, life keeps slipping past in small moments. A conversation that won't happen again. A sunset they barely noticed. A laugh that disappears in seconds. A random Tuesday that someday becomes a memory. Because here's the truth. Life didn't stop feeling the same overnight. It changed gradually. So gradually that you barely noticed. You changed. Your priorities changed. Your expectations changed. Your brain changed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means you're growing. The problem isn't that life feels different. The problem is believing it should feel exactly the way it did before. Nothing in nature stays the same. Seasons change. Cities change. Friendships change. People change. Why would life be any different? Maybe the goal isn't to get back to how things used to feel. Maybe the goal is to learn how to appreciate what this chapter feels like. Because every stage of life has something unique hidden inside it. Something the previous stage didn't have. Something the next stage might not either. And maybe that's what we've been missing. Not excitement, not motivation, not nostalgia. Presence. The ability to fully experience the moment we're living instead of constantly comparing it to another one. So if life doesn't feel the same anymore, maybe that's not a sign that something is wrong. Maybe it's a sign that you're standing between who you were and who you're becoming. And that space can feel confusing. It can feel lonely. It can feel strange. But it can also become the beginning of something new. Because one day you'll look back at this version of yourself too, and you'll realize this wasn't the chapter where life lost its color. It was the chapter where you learned that the color was never gone. You just had to start seeing it differently.